everybody, and welcome to Texas. As you can see, I'm in the new place, new garage, where magic will happen, and I was kind of eager to get something filmed. Today is actually a day or two after I released the last video that I released, though chronologically that video was, I don't know, 2 weeks before, and with traveling and getting settled in and all that, I didn't have time to release it. So, but yeah, this video will probably go out really quick after that. But I also kind of wanted to rush sending this for a couple of reasons. For one, I'm going to start looking for the next project, and that's what I want to talk about. And I want feedback, because it's important. But also, I wanted to start the video with a little bit of, well, just the symbology of the open garage, the empty garage rather. We've got kind of a clean slate to work with here, trying to look at the bright side of the situation. So yeah, here it is, we've got an empty garage. We're now based in Dallas-Fort Worth. I got plenty to say about that, but not really the focus of the video, but briefly, it's cool to be somewhere else, to be in a new place, and with lots of adventures up ahead. So here's the new garage, and like I said, blank slate. There's nothing in here yet. My stuff hasn't come yet. Tomorrow, hopefully, it'll come, and we will have probably a week at least of this garage being filled. I'm dreading it because if anyone's been following me long enough, I have the garage nightmare video that you can look back and you can see what happened. Last time I conducted a move, that wasn't really a move that was getting stuff out of storage, but same thing. And of course, the first thing to go by the wayside is Dad's hobbies, right? So I expect tomorrow when we have those U-Haul moving pods, this will be filled to the brim, and it will be several weeks before it's settled. But I'm going to start looking really soon, and it's frustrating because I might actually already have something decided, but I wanted to at least talk about what I'm thinking about beforehand. So that's what I'm going to go into today. I'm kind of laughing. I feel like I got a little bit of like a Tye Lopez feel going on here. I don't know if you guys remember those videos on YouTube a couple of years ago. Hi, here in my garage next to my Ferrari, but you know what I really like is knowledge. I don't know. That was kind of the feel I was getting when I was like dry running this video. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to change the scenery though real quick because it's really echoey in here. And then I will share with you my thoughts. Okay, so I've went ahead and relocated to these nice wetlands that I got near my new house. And apologize for the kind of weird angle, but I don't have a tripod, so I've got the camera sitting on a rock. Okay, next bike. So I almost made the joke that the next bike is going to be a Harley. And I think a lot of you know that there's that kind of like perceived the way things should be evolution of the motorcycle, of the biker, where he starts on the 1000cc Gixxer that he rides for 6 months, says he did for 5 years, scares himself, and then moves over to the Harley, and like that's the way you do it, because you become old and fat. And I am older, not that old, and definitely fat, but if you ever hear me say, well, it's time for me to get my Harley, just take me out back and shoot me, because it's not actually me. It's an imposter. I've got a lot of thoughts, and I kind of know which way I'm going to be going with it. I do want to hear input back, like people, I think most of my audience came looking for the 916, and so I'm sure some of you will drop off because of it, but, well, sorry guys, I don't have a 916 anymore. I may someday again, I very well likely will someday again. But for now, the immediate future, the next few months, year or two, who knows, I tend to go through motorcycles pretty quick. I'm going to go something a little different. Now, I would like to do another Ducati, and I have to spend not a lot of money. If you're a Ducati person, and you're kind of familiar with pricing, that puts me in the range of another Monster, an older Monster, or maybe an old Super Sport. The other option is to get a metric sport bike. Now, I've also given a lot of thought lately, and I could write an entire essay, and in fact I've considered either making a video or starting a blog or something, because I always have thoughts about motorcycles welling up that I share about this much with my wife. She doesn't care that much, but she lets me get it out of my system. But I could talk a lot about what I think the ideal bike is. And, you know, briefly, something I've thought really strongly about for a long time is that not everybody needs a super sport. In fact, 99% of the population doesn't need a super sport at all. What they need is what are called introductory sport bikes, right? And I think the marketing has been heavily tilted by the manufacturers to the super sports, you know, because they could charge a $3,000 premium if they sell you a Gixxer 600 versus a GSX 650F. Or R6 versus a ZX6. And I think that's a little goofed up. I think what most people need are what they call the introductory sport bike. And I think they have that rap. I think that's wrong, because there's an implication there that you must step up to the super sport. And the reality is that 99% of the time you're riding, you are not going to use the performance difference between an introductory sport bike, and I will keep using the air quotes with that, or a super sport, right? So we'll call it sport versus super sport, just to delineate. And that's what it should be. It should be a standard sport bike versus a super sport bike, not an introductory sport bike, and then you step up when you're ready to a super, to a super sport. The super bikes are awesome. They're cool. I'm obsessed with them. I still love them, but they're just not they're not necessary for the road. Really, I think you should have, if you have enough money, you have a super sport as a track day weapon, and you have a sport for everything else. And really, well, I think a lot of times, now I've never owned a conventional sport. I've always owned, I've had the Monsters, and I've had an SV. I've had two Monsters and an SV. And if I'm being honest, most of the time that's what I needed. I needed a Monster with a fairing, which is, by the way, why the new Ducati Super Sport is, to me, so fascinating. Because when I was at IMS a couple of years ago, Long Beach, one of the Ducati reps were like, this is literally is a Monster with a fairing. And there were times I've owned, like I said, two Monsters, and I looked into people see if people would put fairing kits on them, which is ridiculous, right? Because the Monster originally was a bike that took the fairing off. But if you do know about the way motorcycles were in like the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, people would get a bike that was naked. That's just how you bought the motorcycle. It wasn't naked, it was just, that was it. And then they would put fairings on them as a kit. Anyway, I've had that thought, and that's what the Super Sport is. But I don't have 10 grand to blow right now. My finances are taking a hit with this new job. Hopefully I have some plans to work money in other ways, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so that leaves us with some kind of clear-cut answer of what we need to look at here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put on the screen. I've already looked at a few samples, and right now I'm antsy because I kind of want to pull the trigger on something, but I'm not quite ready to pull it yet. Partially because I want to hear the feedback. Like I said, I think a lot of my audience is here because of the 916, but this is a hobby, right? I don't run money on my videos or anything. So, okay, so option one, stick with Ducati. Now, I am a die-hard Ducati fan. If you're familiar with the Ducati brand, I want to spend less than $2,000 on the next bike. which is what I spent on the 916. But 916, you still got to charge prices, right? And honestly, I kind of want to get something that's in worse condition than the 916. That's another thing. Before I go into this, I really want to find something that's like, will kind of like be like, whoa, you fixed that into that. That leaves us with a monster or a lot of old super sports. Now, super sports are weirdly hit or miss because some people think that the super sport has this royal pedigree, and it kind of does. Hunter S. Thompson wrote that ridiculous, what's the Song of the Spaghetti Monster, sausage creature, not spaghetti monster, Song of the Sausage Creature, and he was talking about a super sport. It was in like a 92. It's a delightful read if you haven't read it. And some people think, well, I've got a Ducati, so it's got this royal bloodline, and then they'll list a 97 super sport for $5,000. Like, come on, man, what are you doing? And what's funnier is some people will actually buy that. The other option is an old monster. I've done 2 monsters, and I want another monster in my garage someday when I'm rich, when I have the garage full of motorcycles. But for the time being, I kind of want to do a super sport. I thought about it. The one catch on the super sport is, now, to be clear, when I'm talking about a super sport, I'm not talking about a super bike. I'm talking about a super sport, and you guys know the difference. If you don't know the difference, Ducati Super Sport, which is a specific model, say an SS, it's a 2-cylinder, air-cooled, 2-valve. A little bit of oil cooling, but they're way less powerful than something like a 916. The 916, even though it's a twin, it's comparable to a 1000cc bike like a Gixxer 600, R1, Ninja 1000, etc. Whereas the SS is really more comparable to like introductory sport bike. There's a lot. An SS is essentially a fairinged monster, which that's backwards. Actually, their first monster was a SS taken off the assembly line with its fairings removed and a headlight added, a round headlight. Like literally, that's how the monster came about. Miguel Galeazzi, that's how he came out with the idea. So I found, for example, this one that's now popping up on your screen, and boy, is it a looker, right? It's got these stickers on it. It's got the wrong fairing. I don't know what that fairing on the nose looks like. It could be a 999 fairing. I don't know where that tail came from. The tail is unidentifiable. It's listed in the ad as custom, custom everything. Person is asking $3,000 for it. I've already emailed them and I said, hey, look, kind of interested, but I don't know about that price, And they said, well, we're pretty eager to move it. So I think there's a good chance that I could take it home. Let's say, honestly, if I'm being really honest, I'd say like $1,200 is what I would want to pay for that. That's less than half of what they're asking for, so I think it might be a bit of a stretch. I'm not spending $2,000 on that thing. It's got all the listed, like, oh, it's custom this, that, and the other. And it's funny because it's one of those. It's kind of the worst of both worlds, because the super sport people often think that they have some kind of royal pedigree, so they ask too much for it. And this guy thinks he has some royal pedigree because it's a Ducati, but it's not the kind of Ducati any real Ducati fan is going to want to touch. Apparently, it was used as a track bike. Obviously, massive improvements would be needed to do that bike. So far, I haven't found any monsters, but this brings me to the other idea, which is to do a Japanese bike, and which I'm not opposed to it at all. And I tell you, the front runners have been the FZ6, because they're surprisingly, or maybe an FZ1, though I think an FZ6 might be a better choice because it weighs like 50 less pounds. And been reading up on them. People think extremely highly of them. They're supposed to be fairly reliable. And boy, let me tell you, the advantage is the cost of parts. You know, I was doing, we'll call it comps of, okay, if I were to replace this part on this bike and this part on that bike, the pricing is just, you know, it's like half to a third of what the parts would cost under Ducati. So I could go really kind of crazy with this and not spend very much. Last week there were some other, before I go into that, so this bike I'm going to show here is actually kind of the front runner right now. It's an FC6. It's 2007, might be wrong. I don't have the notes in front of me. And as you can see, it is ugly as sin. And my wife is just calling it the ugly bike. It's a showed her. Guy wants $1,000 for it. Now it hasn't been moved. He started at $1,500. Now he's asking for $1,000. I don't know that I would offer $500. It's in really bad shape, as you can see. But holy cow, man! Like, wouldn't that be cool to take that and put it into, to get it back to looking like an FC6? And I mean, or would I fail? I don't know. It also has engine problems, which is kind of what I want, because, you know, it's something to work on. Hobby. As you can see, though, it's in really rough shape. Obviously, it needs the entire tail section rebuilt, and I can tell you, I want a fairing. The FC6 makes there's fairings for the FC6, so we will modify this turkey. Not modify it, but we will rebuild this turkey back to what it should look like, to include getting the whole fairing section rebuilt if I can. That would be a heck of a project. Rebuild the engine. It's apparently misfiring on 2 cylinders. It does have a clean title, which honestly, the disaster that it's shape that it's in is in a way is a bonus. But honestly, I might make an offer here, because that one's kind of approaching ideal because it's so much work. But I mean, again, I've priced like that tail section and stuff already. I already kind of in my head started rebuilding it, and assuming that there haven't been, and I don't know exactly what's been changed on the frame. I might be biting off more than I can chew, but we'll see. So that's an idea. Believe it or not, that's the front runner. I've also looked at, like here, this is a FC1. Like I said, an FC1 is a little heavier, so it's not quite as high on my priority list. This one doesn't have any engine trouble. It's a theft recovery, so it would need a lot of cosmetic work. It isn't starting right now, but it's because the owner who recovered his bike doesn't have the key. So that's an option. But that one, as you can see, it's 2000. Yeah, it's close. That would be another one I would rebuild the fairing on. So yeah, so we got options, but that kind of shows you what I'm thinking of. Something that much of a disaster. And you can see the advantage to getting an old Yamaha versus the old Duck. Now, let's be clear. Not at all leaving the Ducati life behind permanently. But I do need something until my wife goes back to work, until I can find a second job and start financing my motorcycle lifestyle again. Obviously, tip-top thing that I want more than anything is a brand new Super Sport. And you can get those for $9,000, but you know, if it's brand new, there's no work to be done on it. So where's the fun in that? But anyway, that's what I'm thinking. And I really would appreciate feedback. I really would. I may not listen to the feedback. I'm under no obligation, because like I said, I do this just for a hobby. But I would love to hear it back from everyone. I always like when people respond, and you know, it kind of blows my mind that anyone's taking their time to listen to me jibber jabber. So yeah, let me know. What do you guys think? Because I think that FC6 is kind of a fun idea. Like if we could get that full fairing completely back to yeah, I'm kind of a stock guy. You know, guys know that. I don't like too much customization. Maybe we could have a project to paint it. There's a whole bunch that we could do with that, right? So anyway, those are my thoughts. Again, welcome to Texas, everybody. and I'm looking forward to our new beginnings. So talk to you later.